If you were to ask me what my favorite food is, I would say burger. Specifically, this Smashburger. And today I'm going to show you how you can make one for yourself. We're going to start with a keto bun recipe. This is a fantastic little recipe. It's really quick and really easy, and it's gluten-free. If you don't want to have a keto bun, then you can skip this and just use a regular bun. This is by far the easiest and the tastiest keto bun recipe that I've ever used. Let's jump right in. First thing you need to do is take 2 tablespoons of butter and melt it down. You want to be careful not to get it too hot here because you don't want the fats to separate, and you certainly don't want it to brown. I also went ahead and preheated the oven to 180 degrees centigrade. You can also do this in the microwave if you just put it in on high for about 2 minutes. I'm putting 3 tablespoons of almond flour into a food processor, pinch of salt, and I'm just going to quickly check on the butter just to make sure it's not burning. And here I'm going to add in a leveled 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, not to be confused with baking soda. That goes straight into the mixer. Now it's time for xanthan gum. I'm going to do the same, about a 1/4 teaspoon. Xanthan gum is essential for keto bakers. Its purpose is to sort of replicate that gluten formation that happens when you knead flour. And xanthan gum is great for replicating that springy feeling that you get from flour-based breads. So you just crack an egg straight into the mixer and pour in your butter, making sure that it's not so hot that it'll start cooking your egg. So make sure you get all that butter out of the pan. And that's about it. Just seal the mixer and give it a good blitz. Just make sure it incorporates well. Hello, Mr. Poltergeist. Just gonna open it up and mix, give it a good mix at the bottom. I find that sometimes baking powder and xanthan gum can sort of collect under the blade, and if you're not careful, it won't get mixed in properly. So I find it's always better to just give it a good scrape with the spatula, and you should be fine. This is what I like to bake my buns in. These are large size ramekins. These I bought from my favorite kitchen supply store in Lahore, from a place called Kaka Bawa. Now I'm just going to grease the ramekin with some olive oil and wipe off the excess, if any. This is going to help create a non-stick coating, and to further this, I'm going to sprinkle a pinch of all-purpose flour into the base and shake it around. For those of you on a ketogenic diet who are wondering about the flour, don't worry, it's a negligible amount and it's not enough to throw you out of ketosis. Just give it a little bit of a stir, and then we're going to pour it out into the ramekin. Now I'm just slapping the ramekin down onto the palm of my hand to force out any air bubbles or air pockets. And I like to sprinkle some sesame seeds right on top just before going in the oven. The sesame seeds will toast really nicely and lend a nice flavor. Here I'm adding some nigella seeds on top as well, just for that extra oomph. And into the oven it goes. So it's been cooking for about 10 minutes, and just gonna have a peek. It seems we've got a nice rise. We've got a bit of coloration on top, and that's because this oven of mine is not my main oven. My main oven is in the shop. Its convection fan broke right in the middle of this lockdown. I guess I was baking too much. The knife came out just a little too wet for my liking, so I'm gonna cover this with some foil and stick it back in the oven. Okay, so it went in for about 2 minutes, and I'm gonna pull it out now. It should be done. Yep, knife comes out nice and dry. Just set it up on a cooling tray. They really sort of expedite the cooling process because they allow air to circulate all around the ramekin. Allowing the bun to cool down is important because if it's too warm, it might fall apart when releasing from the mold. We can now start burger prep by peeling 1 onion and removing the root and the stem. I'm going to set the mandolin to the thinnest possible setting and do a test slice. The onion slices should be see-through and as thin as you can get them without them falling apart. And don't forget to use the safety device here because this mandolin is extremely sharp. Once the onions are all sliced up, you can put them in a plate and set them aside. So now I'm going to take some iceberg lettuce and I'm just going to discard the stem and I'm going to remove some leaves. Gonna quickly rinse them out under some cold water, shake them dry, and then I'm going to bring them back to my cutting board. Just going to stack them one on top of the other, fold them over once, and then chop them through with a knife. This is my cast iron skillet. It's fantastic for making smash burgers. I got it from Daraz. Cast iron can get really hot, which is essential for searing meats. Once the meat hits the pan, everything moves really quickly, so it's important to have all your ingredients lined up. You got your cheese ready, your salt and pepper standing by, your buns ready, and your onions ready, and any sort of utensils or cooking tools you might need. You should just have them ready on standby. Let's talk a little bit about the beef. Now, it's best if you use beef that's got a higher fat content than the normal keema you get in the market. So I usually ask the butcher for a ground chuck, and if he doesn't have chuck, sometimes he just blends some extra fat in there. That works as well. As long as it's about 20% fat, you should be fine. I'm gonna cut the bun in half and just toast it lightly on both sides. They're gonna brown quite quickly because remember that pan is ripping hot, so be careful not to burn your buns. Just brush the oil around on the pan. It should start smoking almost immediately. So now we're going to season our beef, and we're just going to sprinkle it with salt. It's important that we do this just before the beef hits the pan. If you season too far in advance, the meat tends to dry out and it results in a really chewy and rubbery burger. I'm also going to tear off a piece of wax paper and just set it aside for now. So now it's time to put the meat on the pan. It's smoking hot, and I'm just gonna plop these meatballs down maybe 3-4 inches apart and just quickly rinse off my hands. I'm going to use a piece of wax paper to prevent the meat from sticking to the bottom of the spatula. That can happen sometimes, especially if the moisture content is high in the beef. So you just smash down, and this is where that broad spatula comes in handy. And I'm applying a lot of pressure with my right hand as well. And we're trying to get these burger patties to smash down to about a quarter inch, maybe a third of an inch thick. And to reduce the heat down to medium, just peel off this wax paper. You can discard it now, we don't need it. The meat's going to cook in no time at all, but here's a little special step that really adds a lot of flavor to the beef, and that is these finely sliced onions. And what we're going to do is, once I've got all of them on there, I'm going to bring back my spatula and smash them all into the beef itself, which will cause the onions to steam and imbue the beef with their steamed onion flavor. Just gonna check the heat there, and here's another Smashburger secret: is you put maybe about a tablespoon of mustard on each burger patty, and when we flip that in a moment, the mustard's gonna hit the pan and caramelize instantly. Sprinkle of salt, because remember, the meat is mostly unseasoned. This is a scraper, and it's excellent for removing the entire patty intact from the pan, including all those wonderful caramelized fats. So the burger's almost done. I'm going to peel the cheese and have it ready so that I can cheese on the flip. Always cheese on the flip. Okay, let's scrape these bad boys off and give them a flip. Wonderful. Look at that crust. Oh, that looks good. quickly add the cheese. What's happening underneath is the mustard is caramelizing, and because the mustard has vinegar in it, it's adding a sort of a tart flavor to the meat. The onions are steaming into the beef itself, so you've got sharp caramelized oniony flavor on one side of the patty, and on the other side you've got gooey cheese over crispy, tasty, fatty beef. Just about the only thing that could make this burger taste better is butter, and we're going to use a lot of it. We're going to put a little bit on the bottom bun, and we're going to put a whole lot of it on the top bun. And our hope here is that once the burger is closed and the butter on the top bun makes contact with the hot burger underneath, the butter is going to melt and sort of ooze everywhere throughout the entire burger. I wasn't kidding when I said we're going to use a lot of butter. I just put this stainless steel bowl over to help the cheese melt. I'm just going to remove it now because I don't want the burger to get steamed and soggy. I'm going to put some of my shredders on the bottom bun, and quite a healthy amount, because you know, vegetables are good for you. And then we just stack these patties one on top of the other and bring them over to the bun. So some of the onions get charred and black, and that's actually good because it adds a wonderful smoky flavor to the burger as well. Oh man, that looks good. Just a bit of salt and pepper to finish. And that's about it. We're done. Thank you guys for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and do leave a comment. I'd love to hear your opinions, your suggestions, any recommendations you have about future videos and future recipes. Do let me know. This was my first attempt at doing a cooking video like this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay safe, stay happy, and eat well.